to L&D Design. My name is Lene and I am half of L&D Design along with my husband David. Today we have a little bit different of a video for you guys. I was thinking about all of the crafts and things that I did in 2020, and we just started our channel in 2020 and we haven't put a ton of crafts and things up. So I really enjoy watching those videos where people are like my top 10 or my top 30 crafts from the year. But I just didn't have a lot to choose from of crafts that I had actually recorded since we just started our channel in 2020. So I thought that I would talk about my top 5 kind of tips, crafting tips and tricks and things that I learned in 2020 or that I used super often. So that's what this video is going to be about today. If you are interested in learning my top 5 tips, tricks, and things like that dealing with crafting, then stay tuned. My first tip is actually something recent that I learned when I was doing all my holiday baking. So one thing that I used to do a lot when I crafted was when I was painting, I would just take a piece of my computer paper, it's right here, right there, in my printer, and I would lay it down and I would paint my item on top of it. And I would always notice that it would get crazy stuck to the paper, and not just stuck, but pieces of the paper would pull up and get stuck onto my project. And it was always very frustrating. So as I was baking all of my holiday cookies this year, I had bought a ton of wax paper, or parchment paper, a ton of parchment paper. I got this from Dollar Tree. I just went and grabbed a whole bunch of this because I knew that I would possibly be using it for baking because I only have one silicone baking sheet, which is amazing. By the way, if you bake, love them, but they're kind of pricey. So when I'm baking a lot, especially during the holidays, I use that silicone baking sheet, but I also needed some parchment paper. So I grabbed a ton of these. And as I was crafting one day, I got to thinking, if the cookies and the baked goods are meant to not stick to the parchment paper, maybe my projects won't either. So I tried it and there's no turning back for me. I love it. So your project will get stuck on here, but when you go to pull your project off, none of this pulls off onto your project. So if it does get kind of painted on here, you just simply pull your project up. You don't have anything stuck to the piece that you're trying to create and make beautiful. And it's been a really helpful tip for me this year that I can just rip a piece off, put it right on my workstation, and just get straight into painting my project without any mess. A bonus tip dealing with that parchment paper is that it's really great for kind of mixing the paint or when you're doing dry brushing. So when I was using just regular computer paper, I would notice that when I tried to do that on the paper so I didn't have to dirty like a dish or a bowl or anything like that, that it would start to seep through the paper because obviously the paint is very wet and the paper is very flimsy. But you can actually mix or wipe your brush off, swirl it around right on this parchment paper as you are painting your piece if you give yourself a big enough piece of parchment paper, and that works really well. Tip number 2 has to do with glue sticks. This is going to seem super simple, and I feel like I've seen people do this in crafting videos so much in their crafting storage. And it's just nothing that I really thought about. I was like, oh, cool idea. And I moved right past it. But that is to keep your glue sticks in a container. I know you're probably like, Lynn, I already do that. But I wasn't doing that. I had mine in a Ziploc bag. I had it in my craft storage, which we will talk about at the end of this video. And I would always have to go over there and pull it out and do all of that. But now I decided to just display them in this glass jar that I already had sitting as kind of decoration in my craft storage. And it's really simple. So when I need to use any hot glue, I just bring this over to my workstation and I can just simply pull a glue stick out and it's right there for me. So as I'm getting ready to change my glue sticks when I'm in the middle of a project, I don't have to go reaching into the bag and fumbling around. I have it all right here. A bonus tip with glue sticks that I did learn from several YouTube videos this year, because I watch a lot of crafting YouTube videos, is when you're changing, let me grab it, when you need to put a new glue stick in, one of my biggest pet peeves is that it doesn't attach itself. So you're going and going and you're down to your last little bit and you put a new glue stick in. And then it's all the way out here. And you're pushing and you keep having to shove the end of the glue stick in before it catches in this part in the middle. Well, another tip that I learned this year is to take your new glue stick and put just a little dab on the end and then push it in. I will say that you have to be super careful with this because there was one time that I was moving super quick. I got way too excited and I put a little bit too much hot glue on the end and it kind of gunked up in my glue gun and I had to like pull it all out. It was a whole issue. But it's a really great tip if you just do the tiniest little dab and it helps secure it so that as you're going, your new glue stick is going to catch and you're not going to have to keep pushing it back in. Tip number 3 is to do with measuring, but kind of putting projects together. So I really love this. I call this a T-square. I know it's not. I guess it's like an L square. L for Lene. Yay. But this I actually got from Dollar Tree. And one thing I have really found helpful with this is it may not be so great for measuring, but it's really great for when you're trying to line your projects up or when you're trying to put some decals or some letters on your project. Because one thing with a ruler, let me pull my ruler out, is that it's great for measuring and it's great for lining things up. But if you're not completely like centered and you line things up like this, well, your letters are going to be tilted. And that's something that just I kind of found really that I struggle with. Sorry, I'm trying to get it back in the drawer. That I struggle with the ruler because it still doesn't allow me to get things straight. My decals or my wording or whatever I'm doing might be in a straight line, but it doesn't mean that it's straight and level on my project. So one thing that I really like about this is that you can place one of these parts against the bottom, top, side, or whatever of your project, and it's automatically going to make it straight so that you can use the other side to create your straight lettering or straight wording, and you know that it's going to be really level on your project. So I have really liked using this. I used this in a recent video when I did the sign for my beauty room, and I pushed everything really close up so I knew that I had my pieces of my sign really pushed together and really level and even. So this is a great tool to have, something I've really used a lot this year, and you can grab them at Dollar Tree. My 4th tip is to do with painting again, and that is to put your brush in a bag. I know that people probably do this all the time, and it's not something that I really thought of until this year. So I've done a lot of like house painting and things like that before we moved, and I found myself going through a lot of brushes. We moved over 2 years ago, but I found myself going through a lot of brushes. This summer, actually, since, well, we were all stuck at home and we couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't take the kids to the pool, poor things. I did a lot of home improvement projects around the house, painted a lot of rooms, updated a lot of our spaces. And one thing that I found really helpful was to put my brush in a Ziploc bag as I was working. I didn't have to rinse my brush out. I didn't have to throw it away and get a new one. So I would paint the wall or whatever I was doing, whether it was a piece of furniture, because I did a lot of that this summer also. And I would just stick my brush in here and close it back up. And if you have like a longer brush, it will stick out at the top here, and that's perfectly fine. And then you just close it up until you're ready to put on your next coat while your first or second coat or whatever is drying. And that was really, really helpful. It's also really helpful for smaller crafts and your smaller brushes. And I know this is not a new tip. I know a lot of people probably do this, but it was something that I kind of discovered over this year that has been really, really helpful for me when we were painting throughout the house and when I was doing my craft projects. Another thing that I found really helpful with using these Ziploc bags is you can actually put them in the fridge. So say, you're painting a room or you're doing kind of a bigger project, right? And you're not going to get all of that done in one day. You don't want to leave your paintbrushes sitting out because some of that air can seep through there. And I did notice that if I'm doing a project over like 2, 3, 4 days, like when we did our kitchen cabinets, that was days worth of project. And I noticed that my brush was starting to dry out just having it in the bag sitting on the counter or, sitting around. So what I actually did was put it in the refrigerator. My roller was in a bag, my brush was in a bag, even my little cup of paint that I was using to edge, I put a bag over that. And by putting it in the fridge, it kept it where that I could still use the brush and I could still use the paint, and I didn't have to worry about it drying out. My last tip is storage. And my storage that's right behind me. And we'll go over there and look at that in a second. I have a craft room downstairs that is riddled with things from my classroom. So there's a kind of small, not so beautiful room in the basement that when we first moved into this house, we designated as my craft room. I had all my stuff down there. It was all laid out. But what I found was for one, I don't want to always have to go into the basement to craft. And for two, as I had to bring things over from my classroom over the summer, I brought a lot of things home. Now, my original intention was to take all those things back to the classroom in August, but we did not go back. We're still learning from home right now. So I have all of this stuff that I brought home during the summer to work on and get ready for the next school year, and I had to find a place to put it. So it's pretty much just piled up in my craft room. It's a mess in there. So I still wanted to be able to craft. I still wanted to have easy access to my items, but I didn't want to clutter up the rest of the house. What I found was using cube organizers is a really, really great way to do craft storage if you don't have a craft room, if you don't have a space that's solely dedicated to your crafting essentials. You don't want to clutter up the rest of the house with it, so you can do it in a way that still looks really nice. So let me show you what I've done. Here is my main craft storage, my cube organizer. So I bought this cube organizer when we had to learn from home. And my original intention was to store a lot of my school-related stuff in there. But I have a desk behind me where most of my stuff that I need to teach is there, and then I have my cart right there with my new sewing machine. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Haven't used it yet. I'm a little scared. I have never sewed. My grandma tried to teach me quite a few years ago, like when I was in 8th grade, and I was totally uninterested then. So I haven't touched that yet, but it looks pretty there, doesn't it? So that's really my cart for school. I just drag it over. This is mainly craft storage. And what I really like about this is it looks like part of the room. It's a piece of decor. I got the baskets that were very neutral, very similar to our decor. I can use the top. Right now it's still decorated for Christmas because I'm filming this video early. We haven't taken our Christmas decor down yet, but usually I'll have other things up there. I have decor up there, things that I can display. So it becomes really a piece of furniture, but inside I have all of my crafting items. So for example, like my glue sticks usually go right there. So I have crafting items, I have some brushes, some things like that. I need easy access to my Cricut vinyl, but then I also have these bins that have lots of different craft items in them where I have easy access to it because I typically craft at my desk. But I don't have to have all that craziness flung all over the house. And when someone walks in, you see this storage, but it doesn't look bad. It doesn't look hectic. It doesn't look a mess. And I'm able to still craft the way that I want to, even though my craft room is full of teacher supplies. I've also found that using this in a closet is really awesome as well. So this is a little bit messier because it's in a closet. It's behind closed doors, but this is our coat closet actually by our front door. And we never come through our front door. We come through our garage. So we use a different closet as our mudroom. We never use this for any coat purposes whatsoever. So this is really just storage. So what I did was I took 2 of these and I stacked them on top of each other. And it's not cheap initially. I will say these are quite expensive, but it's really been beneficial for me because in here I can house my crafting supplies where you will see on the top. I have my paints and things, different items that I can use, paper. I know the system. I know it looks really disorganized to everybody else, but I have all of that. And then I can still have, for me, my teacher things that I'm going to need access to, that I don't want to have to go dig out of my craft room, the things that I'm actually using and need to plan, like my laminator or, my curriculum books. So I can have all of my stuff really housed here conveniently. And it can be a little bit messy, but it's still organized. I know, for example, if I, need a paint pen, boom, I can go right here. My paint is right here. There's little items here where, I want to kind of craft those little smaller items and things like that. So using these inside of a closet, if you have one that really just needs to get more organized and you have the space for it, is really, really great. And it's really helped me kind of keep a hold of a lot of my craft items upstairs since I'm not able to use my craft room currently at the moment. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I know it was different from the videos that we usually do, our DIYs or our home improvement videos, but I really wanted to do kind of a roundup of 2020 and just share some tips that I learned this year. So I hope you guys liked it. If you have any craft tips that really help you, that you use on a regular basis, please drop them in the comments below. Not only will our whole, 7 subscribers love to see them, I would really love to get some more craft tips too, because I do craft a lot when I can find the time, and any tips and tricks that will help me be a better crafter and make more beautiful pieces, I am all about gathering that information. So any tips that you guys use on a regular basis when you're crafting or DIYing or even doing home improvement, please drop it in the comments below. I would love to read it. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and stay tuned for future craft projects, DIYs, farmhouse-inspired crafts, and some more home improvements over the summertime. So stay tuned for some more videos. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.